A lot has been said about Daenerys and the House with the Red Door. There are an endless number of theories floating around the internet regarding the location of the house with the Red Door. The purpose of this video won't be to delve into these theories, but to discuss the significance of reminiscence and nostalgia and what it tells us about Daenerys and the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. To sum it up quickly, the House with the Red Door is a house in Braavos where Daenerys supposedly grew up. She lived in this house with her brother Viserys under the care of Sir Willem Darry, who eventually passed away. Unfortunately for Dany and Viserys, the servants evicted them onto the streets of Braavos. As they were forced out, Daenerys wept. After wandering the free cities for quite some time, the two siblings returned to Braavos, but to no avail. It appears that neither one of them ever visited this house again. As we're made aware time and time again, the House with the Red Door was really the only home that Daenerys ever knew. We never actually see this house, but it's brought up again and again throughout the series. There are often cases where a certain event triggers Dany's memory. For example, while speaking to Sir Barristan Selmy about not having a home, she mentions, in Braavos, there had been a house with a red door, but that was all. During other times, this is certainly not the case. Sometimes these memories are illustrated to the reader through Dany's dreams. There's no particular link within the real world or her current status. The memory simply creeps up and leaves Dany aching to return to the house with the red door. A false memory, generally speaking, is the psychological phenomenon where a person recalls something that did not actually happen. This is nothing controversial. Think back to your own childhood. We've all experienced this to a certain degree, haven't we? We think we remember something so clearly. We're sure the house we lived in was yellow when it wasn't. We're positive we witnessed an event when we actually didn't. It's very important to note that Dany doesn't really speak much about the house with the red door. She often thinks about it, that's true, but that's mostly about it. There are not many instances of her actually discussing the red door with anyone. It's just her thoughts, her dreams, and her memories. I should make it clear that I'm not suggesting that the house never actually existed. The house exists because George R.R. Martin has written it into existence. It's real in Dany's mind, and perhaps the reader's mind. What I am suggesting, however, is that perhaps it's not an actual tangible place that can be visited, and furthermore, the existence of such a house is relatively unimportant. As Quaithe tells Dany, to go forward, you must go back. But this is perhaps the one thing that she cannot go back to, that feeling of home and knowing that you belong. Different places carry different memories and different feelings as time passes. It appears that what's lost for Dany is lost. The house might still be there in Braavos, but it's not the same house that Dany knew. You cannot step into the same river twice. As a side note, I think it's important to note here that the house supposedly had a lemon tree, which Dany also mentions. In the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, lemons are generally linked with Dorne given the climate, and not so much Braavos. Something obviously doesn't add up here. Perhaps the house with the red door does exist, but only inside Dany's mind. It's about as real as her visions at the House of the Undying, which never came to be, but still continue to define her as a person. The word nostalgia originates from the Greek word nostos, which translates to homecoming or coming back in English. As I briefly mentioned, the house with the red door is something that Dany always comes back to. It doesn't matter where she is or how dire the situation is. Even after her conquest of Meereen, Dany tells Missandei that she was looking for a house with a red door, but didn't find it, as by night all doors are black. What makes these memories of the house with the red door a bit depressing is the fact that the reader may assume that Dany will never actually physically go to this place. She's heading to Westeros, and definitely seems to have no plans to stop by Braavos up to this point. Perhaps the idea of the house is more important than the physical structure itself. During chapter 43 of A Dance with Dragons, Dany examines a parchment containing the marriage pact that Prince Quentyn Martell had brought to her from Dorne. Immediately, she realizes that it had been signed in Braavos while they had been living in the house with the red door. This realization makes Dany feel strange, and she wonders why that is. Many have suggested that perhaps the house with the red door is indeed in Dorne and not Braavos. It's entirely possible that they are correct. However, it's also entirely possible that the date on the parchment simply reminds her of an ideal childhood before she had to take concepts like a marriage pact, war, slavery, death, and destruction into consideration. Dany's world is an ugly place. She's sold off by her abusive brother, she's constantly under attack from all sides, there's death, disease, and chaos all around her. The house with the red door, however, remains intact. It remains untouched by the awfulness of the world around her. After her miscarriage, Dany dreams of the house but cannot reach the door. Her attempts to escape the punishing reality of the world around her are largely futile. The door, it seems, is closed forever, and the nostalgia, the endless yearning which Dany feels for the same place, remains. As the reader, we are faced with a real dilemma. We want Dany to go home, but where is home? Is it the Iron Throne in Westeros, where her ancestors ruled for hundreds of years? Is it in Essos, where she has fought tirelessly to end slavery? Or is it in the house with the red door, which forever remains out of reach? Wherever her home is, we all hope that Dany finds it.